Hello, everyone. In today's episode, I'm going to be touching on how you can get the most out of your limited 24-hour days. And the question I want you to ponder on is, are you even interested in getting a great return on your time? Because that's what matters. See, what are your priorities? What's the difference between the successful, free, and strong versus the corrupt, controlled, and distracted? What's the difference? It's how intentional they are with investing their 24 hours. See, the beautiful thing is that you have the power to determine how you would like to view the world. And something infinitely powerful is, do you view time as an asset that is invested, or do you view time as something that you kill or spend? Because when we unravel that, it's going to turn into a much bigger truth than you would think on the surface. See, the deepest realization is that the small everyday shifts that you make over an extended period of time, that creates your life, that creates you. And if your habits are of this nature where you distract and numb and kill time, then you're going to reap what you sow. You get what you give. And the powerful shift that you can make is realizing, wait, I'm going to live my life with a focus, with a intention every minute, every moment. We break this down to the smallest aspects that actually compound to become such a massive reality. See, every decision that you make, it's a vote for who you want to become. And if you if you live with an aim that is so powerful that it overcomes the urges, the temptations, the negative tendencies. See, it is very hard to create yourself into a high value person without a deep burn in your heart, without the strong purpose for choosing discipline over regret. It's a hard thing because the bar, the distractions, it's enticing. It's entertaining in the moment. It grips you. But if you do that over time, it ends up gripping you in the wrong way. Rather, if you're intentional and you invest your time, what grips you is freedom. What I mean by that is you realize, oh my gosh, my every decision actually, it leads me to feeling a certain way. See, the feedback loop is a important concept to grasp. And one of the biggest feedback loops in life is thoughts, actions, feelings, repeat cycle. If you're going to think a certain way, you're going to take certain actions, and then your actions lead you to feel that way. And it just repeats. So what happens for many people is that chain is broken due to one of two things, or how can I say it better? There's two things usually. And the two things that most people break that feedback loop, that chain with, is a unexpected life-changing situation, or how I describe it is I was sick of feeling sick and tired. And this comes in many forms. It could come in depression, addiction. For me, I realized my friend group was going a different direction than I. And then that forced me to come to this tough realization. Oh, wait, I'm going to have to change my friend group. And for me, that was just, you don't always have friends to replace other friends. I just deleted them. I said, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. And that's tough. It can lead you to being lonely. But how I can wrap this up is what you want is not always what you need. And I needed that loneliness, although it wasn't what I wanted. When someone says they don't have time for something, it's another way of saying it's not important. It's not a priority. So we have to understand that life is trade-offs. And this is just the truth. You can't have everything, okay? So we have to understand, like, what are our top values? For me, a few, like freedom, internal peace, health in general. And freedom's a huge one, freedom from the 9 to 5, freedom from the negative thinking within your mind, freedom from your urges, your temptations, your desires. And I'm not where I want to be, of course, but like the end goal is to just be at peace no matter what the situation is, independent of the weather, the circumstance, how someone treats me, to have this peace inside that it's so powerful that external stimulation can't make me what's the best way to say this? Sort of an unwavering peace. And oof, there's a lot of trade-offs if I want to truly get there, but you make these adjustments and you figure out, oh, this is a priority for me. And therefore, there's going to be things that I no longer can do. If your goal is to have internal peace, to be powerful and wise, and when I use the word powerful, I mean, let me define that. How I see powerful is someone who is so strong that they have no interest in controlling other people. They're so powerful that they realize controlling others is a losing game. You don't control others, no matter how hard you try. And if you do, like in Russia or in Germany of the past, it creates a lot of destruction. That sort of control. They killed millions and they tortured millions in both areas. So people like Christ, the Buddha, these teachers, Ram Dass, these teachers, they understood that there's not many things you control. And one thing you do control is your actions and your style of thinking. And what Ram Dass says is your everyday actions should be an avenue to becoming free. So that's going to mean something different for everyone. But for me, what makes my heart and my mind feel free is doing something meaningful, which it feels like that's what I'm doing here when I'm spreading a message. Well, first of all, the context is that much of our society is confused, has the wrong priorities. I don't want to say that, the wrong priorities, the wrong values, but maybe misconstrued or confused, distracted values, distracted aims. See, culture in mainstream society, it seems to not get the point, not understand the point of life. And what the point of life is to enjoy the journey. And you don't enjoy the journey by numbing your emotions. You enjoy the journey by learning how to understand yourself, your emotions, your desires, tendencies, thought processes, your physiology, the history, the awareness that thoughts are simply like clouds in the sky passing by. You are not your thoughts. I read this statistic that the average person thinks 70,000 thoughts a day. You're not your thoughts. You are the awareness of your thoughts, the thing that notices, oh, there's a red car. You're the thing behind that thought. And these are tough concepts to articulate via language, but if you know, you know. So to get the most out of your time, there's a concept that is called flow. And what flow is, if you've ever played a sport before, this is where I first came into contact with it without knowing what the concept was. But now looking back with the education that I have, I can realize, I was flowing. And the best way I could describe it is when you're playing a sport and you're not thinking one bit. You're playing the sport, you're immersed in the moment. You're doing the stuff, like you're moving, making decisions, but you're not thinking about it. Or another example would be, you ever drop something and then you catch it? And for me, when that happens, I didn't think, oh, that thing's falling, I'm going to catch it. I didn't think that. I simply went, whoop, give me that. I didn't say, give me that. That's my ego, my sense of self, just playing. But what the reality is flow is one of the most powerful states of mind. And just for an example, there are many states of mind. When you're hungry, when you're angry, when you're sad or crying, all different states. And so is flow. And how do you get into flow? There is this diagram that I remember seeing from Dan Coe. And flow is in the middle of where something is not too hard and it's not too easy. Flow is right down the middle. It's this intersection of, I'm focusing on something that is meaningful. I have a bit of competence in this area, but there's more for me to learn. I can advance my skills in this domain. And I mean, that's more of a rational definition of flow. If I want to go a bit more intuitive, I would say it's when you're not thinking, for sure. You're not thinking. And it's very natural. You don't really force yourself into flow. Some practical methods of getting there would be, if you do breathing practices, that's a nice way to get there. If you write and you forget about, what time it is, what you're going to do later, etc., and you're just in the moment, that's flow. So you could get there through many avenues. I think the foundation of flow would be that you're focusing your attention on one thing. It's this one pointedness that I heard that quote from Leo, that phrase from Leo Gura at actualize.org. But the more that you're operating from a flow state in your everyday life, I can guarantee you this, I promise you, your life gets better, like all parts. I'm not saying like that, but I'm saying if you optimize your lifestyle to focus on creating as many flow states as possible, you can't really go wrong. You really can't. And I'm not about black and white thinking, but that's one of those statements where I can guarantee you, the more you operate from a state of flow, the better your life gets. I'll stand my ground on that one. You think in a big picture way is probably one of the most important things anyone can do for themselves. So what is big picture thinking? It's strategic. It is balanced, and it is not too zoomed in nor too zoomed out. So when we talk about the big picture, I'm not saying to forget about the short-term stuff. There's a balance. we have to be intentional with our moments, but to understand how we are going to go about our days, we need to have some bigger picture vision. See, I think it's troubling when people think that they can just say, I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and that's my life. Like to have your everything so overly planned out. What this signals is that you are disconnected, because a connected individual realizes the power of nature. For example, well, why do I bring up nature before I give an example? Because think about how powerful it is. The oceans, volcanoes, tornadoes. You get my point with that. Mother Nature is more powerful than humanity. So where I'm going here is that it's foolish. It's foolish to think that you are more intelligent than Mother Nature, that you can plan your whole life out with your rational mind. Okay? So big picture thinking involves this understanding that there is the subconscious and then there's the rational mind, or there is your sense of self and then your higher self. There's many ways, many labels. I don't care what label you want to use, as long as we're talking about the same stuff. Substance is substance. And it's powerful when you start to realize, well, first of all, a statistic that kind of cracks the shell is the subconscious mind is more than 100 times more powerful in storing and consuming information than the rational mind. So 100x, and that's just, me butchering the statistic. I think it's more like 1,000x. But point is that your subconscious is more powerful than your rational mind. And how do we activate? How do we get the subconscious to begin to work for us? It requires rational steps. See, this is where the game gets tricky. See, there's many far out things that I would love to be talking about right now, but the reality is, before you can even benefit at all from deeper truths, we have to get our foundations, our rational pillars set. So what are these pillars? Like, what these pillars are, like for your big picture practical structure, is understanding financial literacy, your physiology, which is your fitness and your nutrition, and then your psychology, which is how your mind works, noticing that you are not your thoughts, you are the thing. Just as, clouds are in the sky is not only clouds. There's the sky, and then there are the clouds, which are a part of it. Same thing with our mind and our thoughts. Our mind is the sky, and the thoughts are a part of it. So the deeper reality is, oh, what? There's something behind my thoughts? And this is what I would label awareness or consciousness. And this to me is one of the most fascinating things that anyone can investigate. Where does consciousness come from? What is awareness? Deep, deep questions. And these are the things that the people like Buddha, Christ, that they were interested in Allah, and every other religious leader. All of these beings, they understood this. And I'm not at all near their level, not one bit, but I like to study what interests me. There's the theme in the big picture. If you're listening to this, you're interested in what I'm interested in, at least a little bit. And the big picture, what I would always recommend to people is to listen to your natural interest. But here's the trouble. There's the trick, because we have our ego, which is our sense of self, what we refer to when we say, I'm this, I'm doing that, I'm this. That's your ego. And most people, or many people, are operating solely from an ego state. They don't realize that this differentiation between the mind and the thoughts. So when you start to realize, wait, oh, this is the ego speaking. The ego, a way to characteristic, or that doesn't make sense. A characteristic of the ego, a few, would be feelings like jealousy and anger, sadness, the want to achieve, to control, to fit in, to please people. Those are all egotistical traits. And the characteristics of your higher self, your bigger picture, well, you can think bigger picture from an ego state. See, that's fine. There's a difference in the development of egos. So certain egos are very immature, childish. They don't realize that when they're rude to other people, that them acting that way affects the other person. They don't realize that. If they did, and if they understood how it all works, they would realize that when you're rude to someone else, you get that back. You attract what you put out. And that's not woo, that's just reality. Ha! Sorry if you don't like that one. But it's a game. And when you turn it into a game, you realize, oh, they're at this stage of ego development. Another person is a bit more aware. They see, they realize that what you put out is what you receive. So this is the bigger picture thinking bigger picture in both emotional, practical terms, and then deeper terms. There's many differentiations to make, but what the balance is not getting too far to either side. Be successful, generate money, build skills, be a good human, but also remember, you're not just a human doing, you're a human being. So what does it mean to be? It's a question. That's a deep question. What it means to be is directly linked to the flow state. What it means to be is when you can quiet your mind and you're not thinking that much, but you're actually just in that moment. You're here, focused, and flowing. You're not thinking about later, earlier, lunch, friends, none of that. You're just here doing it. That's what I get from this. And like I say, there's many ways to reach the flow state. This is just one avenue. And listening to this sort of thing is another avenue to get into the flow state. So maybe as I say that, you might be in that state, and maybe me bringing it up snaps you out of it. Who knows? But it's all very interesting how your mind and my mind work. There's some similarities, but there's many differences. Very intriguing. Here's a question for you. What's more important, the bar or your future? I know it's your future. I like this. The trap of mediocrity is everywhere. Many humans will hang out with other average humans just to avoid being alone with their mind, which knows they could become much more than they currently are if they'd get real and begin asking deeper questions about what they desire. So I'll ask you again, the bar or your future? And it's a tough one, right? What I see in many people, because this was my experience, and sure, my experience is not many others, but it also is many others at the same time. And what I went through was being around mediocre people. It helped me feel better about being mediocre. and oh, that's a trap. See, many intimate relationships are simply two average people being average together, settling. So many people settle. And what I want to ask you is, What will hurt more? The pain of committing and doing the work for your future self that you know you could become, or the pain of asking, what if I decided to do the work and believe in myself when you're older? What question is better? See, if you wait until you're older to ask these questions, you're filled with that what if, that never ending regret. And I don't want you to feel that way. Regret is a painful thing because it's never ending, it's infinite. And of course, you can heal that, but at the same time, doing the act, believing in yourself, like saying, well, back against the wall, I'm going to do this because it feels right on a deep level. That's the trusting of your intuition. The uncertainty, the adversity that comes with betting on yourself, that creates you into exactly who you need to become. And when you're mediocre, you become the opposite of what you're supposed to be. You settle, you don't grow nearly as much as you should. You probably go backwards. Honestly, it's ridiculous. So many human grown adults are simply children. They have the mind of children in grown bodies. You can tell this because they'll treat others rudely. They lash out, they cut people off in traffic and in conversations. They are not considerate of what they're doing and how that is going to affect the world in general and other individuals on just a simple emotional level. And when you grasp this concept, you become more compassionate due to, usually it's going through pain and in overcoming that pain, realizing, oh, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone else. So therefore, I'm not going to act in a way that I add to the suffering in our world. This is the question. This is the concept. How can we become the sort of being which doesn't add to the suffering in the world? And a deep question. You know what my conclusion is? You have to do this work on yourself, this internal and external work that turns you into someone who is so aware and confident and understanding and kind and just balanced, at peace internally, so that you don't lose yourself, that you make sure you're acting in a way which you don't lash out. And this comes from awareness because, see, the truth is you will always have your emotions. For me, some of my negative traits are of my past. They're still there, but now I'm more aware of them. Things like being a hyperachiever or being too detailed, wanting everything to be my way, or trying to tell people what to do or think that how I do something is the best way. That stuff, I'm aware of it and it's still there. But since I notice it, I don't let it grip me nearly as much as it used to when I had a lower awareness. I wasn't even recognizing, oh, Justin, you're being this. You're doing something that you don't want to do. I didn't know that. And that's the key, is when you can realize before taking an action that would make you feel guilty or regretful or shameful, realizing that emotion arising before it actually turns into an action. If you can raise your awareness to the point of noticing the emotion prior to making it an action, you level up. You level up. And that is a profound key. And it's taken me thousands and thousands of hours to get to this point of doing just many different avenues of focusing my mind, personal development. So some questions, actionable questions that will help you if you answer them. Where are you wasting most of your time? For me, it was my environment and distractions, which they're vice versa. You know, your environment can be a distraction. But other forms of distraction like entertainment, porn, just bad habits, essentially, bad habits. And then my next question is, are you watching too much entertainment? Well, who would have guessed? And this is hilarious. Video games, wasting time with friends. What's more important, your hobbies or your future? Yeah, that's a good one. I'm not saying don't have friends, not saying don't watch entertainment. What I'm saying is get clear on your priorities, learn how to balance. That's important. And really, is it discipline or regret? Because like here's a simple tip, and I'll unravel it. But this tip would be, if you want your life to get better, wake up early, wake up super early. Like I wake up at 3 a.m. You don't have to wake up when I wake up. Just saying earlier than you do now, and continuously move it up until you're at a point where you feel good. Why do I say this? It's going to be different for everyone. Maybe you do the opposite. You go to bed super late. And I don't even know what I was trying to say, but the opposite of waking up early would be waking up late. I don't know. What I mean there is you need to figure out when your mind works best. For me, my mind doesn't work best at night. It's when I am more undisciplined and I can have temptations and make mistakes, essentially. So I go to sleep so I don't do that. And then when my mind works best is when everyone else is asleep. I have no distractions. Wake up, it's peaceful. That's how I start my day. And I get the most done in the mornings. Do so much when your mind is operating at its max capacity. And there's a lot of factors that go into getting your mind at the max capacity. If you're interested in that, well, if you're tired of feeling average or mediocre and you desire like some confidence, a strong self-belief, a physically powerful and aesthetically pleasing physique, if you want these things, like we can do that together. I'll drop a link below, and if you'd like, one of two things. It'll either be an opportunity to schedule a call with me, and then we can see if we work, or you can shoot me a DM and then we can chat there. So if this was valuable, I do these for many reasons. They're helpful for me, helpful for people who are interested in this content. And just do me a small favor, please, maybe, and drop a like, get the algorithm going. And if this was enjoyable, if you had any nuggets, takeaways, feedback, reply. Love conversating with people of a similar nature, people who understand where I'm at. And yeah, lastly, just share it with a good friend. If you think that this would help them, tell them why you're sharing it. Don't just share them a random link, because then they're going to be like, what you doing? Haha. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so much, and enjoy yourselves. Until next time.